Belong to another CCSC, Central Coast Sports College Victory Wrap sporting podcast. And once again, we're going to track through another amazing sporting career from a Central Coast champion in his chosen sport. Another Hall of Famer. It's Rick R.J. Jullienne, joined, of course, by
Dale, the coach, Eggleton.
And before we get into revealing who our special guest is, got to thank our sponsors, our major sponsor, CCSC, Central Coast Sports College. And we welcome back Darren and Megan and the gang at Heritage Real Estate who have joined us for the next 4 podcasts. Great to have them back. And Coach, we talk about sporting careers. We've had some exceptional people on so far. This one is no exception in the sport of Rugby League and OzTag.
That's right, RJ. It's Pat Hart, another multi-talented sports person that excelled at Rugby League, touch football and OzTag. Firstly, in Rugby League, after playing juniors at the Entrance Tigers, he trialled and was signed by the North Sydney Bears, playing under 23s and under 21s in 1987 and 1988. He returned to the Entrance Tigers in 1989 and was part of the start of the Tigers' resurgence and success that still runs to the present day. He was a 3-time premiership winning first grade player with the Entrance, winning in 1989, 1993 and 1995, scoring tries in all 3 winning grand finals. He won the Sterling Medal in 1994 and was consistently high in the count each season. He retired after the 1996 season with a remarkably impressive record of 139 games and 135 tries. He was a halfback that played with his eyes up and played what was in front of him, taking advantage of lapses in concentration or sensing tiredness in the opposition. He possessed a great step off both feet and had blistering acceleration that could pierce the best of defences. After his retirement from Rugby League, he turned his attention to touch football and OzTag, representing at both sports. Eventually it would be OzTag that he would leave the largest imprint. He captain-coached the Central Coast Opens team from 1997 to 2009, winning multiple state and national cups. He was captain of the Australian Opens men's team from 1999 to 2005. He is in the Central Coast OzTag Hall of Fame and he is in the Australian OzTag Hall of Fame. He has an infectious enthusiasm that inspires others. He has always been generous with his time, knowledge and experience, coaching and mentoring others. Add to this, he has managed to own and operate his own physiotherapy business at Killarney Vale for close to 35 years. It is with great pleasure, Pat, that we welcome you to the Victory Wrap.
Thanks, boys. It's very humbling compared to some of the other people you've had here as guests. I think I'm a little bit lower down the totem pole, but thanks for inviting me in.
You're not down that totem pole at all, Pat. It's been a remarkable career starting out in the country, and we're going to track through those years with not just the Tigers, but as Dale mentioned, Norths and a few other clubs as well, and your journey into OzTag once you'd retired from Rugby League. So once again, mate, a pleasure to have you as our special guest on our podcast today. And starting out, Rugby League in Gunnedah, 7 to 8 years of age. Was there another sport? Was it Rugby League in winter, cricket in summer? Was that the go then?
Simple life in the country, Rick. You're correct. That's all we had to offer. There was soccer, but I think hardly anyone played that. Everyone played Rugby League in winter. Everyone played cricket in summer. So yep, simple country life. Loved it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pat, I know of your love of music. Did that start at a young age as well in the family?
Yeah, we did. My dad's an accomplished musician, as you know, and yeah, we always love that. So simple life. Myself and my brother, we either want to be footy stars or music stars. That's how it was. You know?
Moved to the Central Coast in 1980, which over 40 years ago now, and what a different place it was back then. It was amazing. It was a small village back then, in a kind of a way, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that's a big part of when you talk about my sporting life and things. People nowadays probably don't understand just how much it was a community back then and how much local footy and things was important to people, because that's sort of what we had. There wasn't Foxtel, there wasn't things on TV. The community really came together, and I remember as a kid, even from 1980, whatever, heading down there to Batto Bay to watch the Entrance Tigers, who were a struggling club back in those days.
Yeah.
But that's still what you did on a Sunday. If you wanted to watch footy, it wasn't on TV. You only had Rex Mossop's footy at 6:30 at night.
That's right.
So you get down there and you watch the local guys play. It was fantastic to be part of that.
It was great, wasn't it?
Pat, as you were growing up as a youngster with the Entrance Tigers playing, I know you would have had a hero and the football side that you followed as a youngster.
Okay, so as in like NRL, so I was a Roosters supporter. So my first hero was Russell Fairfax,
Right.
with the flowing blonde locks.
Yes.
But Kevin Hastings was a halfback in the era coming through. So they were my two heroes, and yeah, I think I'm happy to stick with them as my two role models. But I loved all the, Steve Mortimer was a great halfback in that era. Peter Sterling. So probably in the end, I wasn't as good as any of those, but I had a touch of all of those in my game.
Mate, the Entrance Tigers 1980 to 86, and your first grade debut at 18 years of age.
Yep.
So you were a young guy, and they've thrown you into first grade. What was that like, your initiation to rugby league with the Entrance Tigers in that local comp back then?
Yeah, well, as we said, like the Entrance were really a struggling club. This is pre the Leagues Club being built. That was 1992. So we used to battle away. The Entrance, was always down the bottom of the ladder. You didn't have a lot of players. There wasn't a lot of depth in the club. But so when I came through, Arthur Newson was the coach of first grade in '86, and there were some green shoots coming through of improvement in the club and players, and they're probably a bit unlucky. But just the way it worked out, I was 18. They gave me a run in first grade a few games into the season, and I played a few games there. It was tough and hard, like we were struggling. But it was great to get a taste of first grade and be part of it. Yeah.
Pat, you could see the potential. The potential was coming in your dreams. You dreamt of what you wanted to achieve in the game. Tell us about going down to North Sydney and Cronulla Sharks, trialling, how that all eventuated.
Yeah, well, my dad was friends with Ian Heads, the famous
journalist.
Yeah. So, there must have been a bit of whisper that I could play. So we're there. So Ian Heads lined me up. He helped me sort of get settled into trial with both those clubs. So it was a bit tricky because I was going to North Sydney training on like Tuesdays and Thursdays and Cronulla's on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I was at a stage in life where I loved training, and it was hard. It was exciting to be part of a professional league. But eventually I had to, sort of pick between one or the other of those, and it was probably logistics was more practical to get to North Sydney easier at that time. Didn't really know my way driving around Sydney well, and it was a bit closer to home. So, but North's good club, and I was excited to be there. Yeah,
and it wasn't a situation where you were playing league where you'd play in your age group, then third grade, and then you'd sit on the bench for first grade, which was a common thing back then because numbers weren't there back then, were they?
Yeah, this is at the Entrance. Yeah, well, it's really because they put me up in first, but first was still struggling. The Entrance hadn't made the semis in any grade back for 6 or 7 years. So third grade were looking okay under Jimmy Stockwell was the captain coach. Yes. So he hit me up. So I'd play under 18s. I'd come straight off. I'd go back on the thirds, sit on the bench. I think they used to let me have a pie or something during reserve grade. And then I'd jump back on the bench for first grade and have a run. It was great to be part of it. Yeah.
Well, Pat, tell us about what it was like. North Sydney Oval, historic Oval, what it was like being involved there, playing under 23s, and still a teenager playing down there.
Yeah. Oh, it was great to be part of them. Yeah, it was, you'd call it semi-professional then. Everyone had a job and turn up after that. But like the whole era of you getting out there being part of game day and the atmosphere of music around the ground, and North Sydney Oval, a beautiful heritage way they had it set up. It was an old club. North Sydney were obviously unlucky, and that similar thing to the Entrance. That was the era where Norths were struggling, and then coming into the 90s, they get quite strong with a lot of the blokes that I played with. They ended up going on to long first grade careers, and so it was good that I was sort of coming into it as part of that. Yeah.
All right, North and Cronulla, you were training, you're with the Bears, playing under 23s, you're trialling with Parramatta, ready to make the move across town, but the Bears wouldn't let you go. What was the background to that story?
Oh, well, the first year I played at the Bears, I sat on the bench more than I played. That's the way it worked out. So I'm not quite sure how I got started at Parramatta, but I got invited to come and trial there. Obviously, I was still under contract at the Bears, but I trialled at Parramatta, and they basically wanted to sign me. But when it came to the Crows, the Bears said, "Oh no, I'm not going to let you go," which probably was fair enough. I was still under contract there, and to be honest, it probably got a little bit more sting in my tail and pushed hard at training. And the next year I had the 88 season, I was basically in the side the whole season. Had a good season playing with good footballers that year. So.
Pat, my mathematics, 1988, it was just after Peter Sterling had retired, so the career could have went in a different way at Parramatta because they were looking for a halfback. They took a long time before they replaced Peter Sterling. But after that good season with North Sydney, and you just finished your uni as a physio, I suppose there was decisions you had to make, what way you wanted to go, and you come back to the entrance in 1989.
Yeah. Well, you're right. I was finishing uni in 89. I got offered a chance to get a job with a physio up here, which was a good job. To stay at Norths, I would have had to hit up the physio to say, right, I've got to finish work early, 3 days a week to go down to training. It was a big call. It probably wouldn't have gone down well there. And so sort of decision was, my passion was for the entrance. Right? Like that was, as Rick pointed out, there was a community back then. They just had started to go a little bit better in 87, 88 when John Spencer had come as coach.
Yeah.
And Norths, when you're in the lower grades, you're sort of basically death riding the guys in the higher grades to either get injured or lose. That's your way of progress through the grades. So it was a funny vibe at that stage. So eventually I put it all together and I thought, look, I think I belong back at the entrance and I'm going to go back there and play. And that's what I decided to do.
So were you, torn between continuing on and maybe making the ARL the first grade with North? I mean, you must have been so close to going, I should stay.
Yeah.
How close were you to doing
Well, that's
that?
a funny thing. So the 88 season in Sydney, they put in this weird rule where in the 87 season, if you played well in your 23s game, you pretty automatically set on the bench for second grade.
Right.
And you got your start through there. In the 88 season, they made it a rule that you couldn't back up and play higher grade the same day. And I remember South actually got stripped a win one week because they forgot those rules. George Pickens forgot the rule and put young Scotty Wilson on.
Okay.
So it basically ended up that even though I played well all that year, none of us got a chance to go up through the grades.
Yeah.
But as you said, if I'd hung around, I was
Who
in the
knows
era
what-
coming through with Gary Larson, Mark Soden, Dave Fairley, Tony Hearn, Craig Wilson, all blokes that ended up playing for their state, David Hall, and I'm not saying I was as good as them, but I was in that similar era with them. So yeah, you're right. If hung in there another year, that could have been the time that the doors opened.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, tell us, Pat, about another guy that was there playing first grade in North Sydney at the time, who was also in the same game, physiotherapy, Martin Bella. Tell us about your association with him.
So Marty Bella, when I started physio in 1986, and there's this big fella wandering around at uni. Anyway, I became good friends with Martin Bella, who at the time played for Australia.
Yes.
So he went on the 86 Kangaroo Tour, and when he came back, basically I had to tutor him through what the exams were going to be to help him pass, which is interesting fellow Marty, and great bloke. I got a real with him through the years, and it was very interesting to have a friend that played State of Origin.
Yeah, he sounded like a bit of a different character, Martin Bella, within the rugby league community. You know what I mean? The players.
Yeah, they seem to struggle with that he had the intelligence to take his textbooks on tour with him and things like that. But
rather than a beer.
Yeah. He didn't mind a beer, Marty, but he was an intelligent man and a forthright man, and he was a good footballer, Marty.
He was. All right, let's get back with Pat Hart in just a minute, but grab your clubs and get your team together for the CCSC, Central Coast Sports College Foundation Golf Day, coming up on October 24. Now, whether you're going solo with a crew or looking to sponsor a hole, join us for a great day on the greens or for a powerful cause. Sport has the power to change lives. It builds confidence, resilience, and opens doors to lifelong opportunities. We're teeing off to support the CCSC Foundation Scholarship Trust, helping student athletes reach their full potential on and off the field. Now you can register now at cc-sc.nsw.edu.au and help change a life through sport.
Pat, as you mentioned, back to the entrance in 89, they hadn't had success since 1961 at winning a first grade premiership. John Spencer, you mentioned, had started to build a side. He took over in 87. Tell us about some of those players that were there and that he added in 89 to go on and win a minor premiership.
It was interesting the way it happened. So he came in 87 and obviously had his contacts with the Balmain area, the Tigers. So we brought a few players with him. Probably the most notable one was Max the King Beecher, who was a good hooker back in the days when you needed hookers to rake the ball. But he was a strong, hard running forward as well. A few other players like Crusher Thurston had come in 1986, right? Tony McCudden had come, gone away to boarding school. He was my age. He'd gone to boarding school at St Gregory's, and he came back. This all of a sudden this machine that was fit and strong, running through blokes. So just the way it worked out, the club got a little bit of a roll on, and then in 1989, different guys moved to the area. Big Dave Lockley moved to there and didn't want to go travel to Wyong to train, so he came and joined us. We had some other blokes come from the country. Steve McSweeney sort of came over and played, and which on paper no one knew who any of us were, but we just got some momentum up at the start of the season. And John Spencer was an excellent coach at making you feel confident in yourself and part of a team, and the team vibe developed, the community vibe developed, and we just kept winning games. We got on a roll. Yeah,
it was a golden period for the Tigers and for yourself too, Pat. At that time in the grand final in 1989, you've scored 3 tries. And, probably at your peak, would you say, around that period, depending on, a couple of coaches came along, but one had a big impact, which we'll talk about in a minute, Alan Emery.
Yep. I guess it's just like a lot of things. Like, as a kid, I wasn't particularly fast. I wasn't big. I'm only a little bloke. And, but obviously the training at North, so I got stronger, fitter, probably just got a bit more confident in myself. And, that 89 season, I'm turning 21 that year, I just sort of grew into myself a bit there. And, obviously I feel I started playing better, but fitted in with the team, and the sum of the parts was a good team. We came together. It was great.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, tell us about that grand final, Pat. 89. You mentioned Dave Lockley had come across from Wyong. It was against Wyong.
Correct.
About that game and the euphoria that it not only brought to that dressing room after the game, but to the community of the entrance.
Yeah, well, my favourite story when you say that, as you pointed out, Dale, 28 years since they won a grand final, the entrance, and people just loved being part of the local thing. So they all were behind us all the way through it. And on grand final day, like Spook, John Spencer, organised for us to meet at the club before the game. And we all walked into the ground there at Graham Park. And, I get a bit emotional talking about this, as the other boys do the same. The ground was absolutely packed. So we walked in halfway through third grade, which was Terrigal versus Woy Woy, and this roar just erupted around the ground of the people just chanting Tigers, Tigers. Wow. And I get tears rising now.
Yeah,
like it just meant so much to the local people. Like, we walked in, and we had a reunion the other day, so it's a bit fresh in my memory. Like guys would just say, "Oh, geez, we got to win this." Like you just knew that the town was riding us. And look, it was a great day. We had a win. I scored 3 tries. I don't think I broke one tackle on my base. It just was in the right spot and got the ball, but it just happened. We won it. We deserved to win it. We played well as a team, and to be part of that experience, and as you said, we celebrated long and hard afterwards. But the community celebrated with us. It was such a huge event for the
mate. Even now, you can say that one of your tries, you started on your own 25 and you ran 75 metres and beat 6 or 7 players to get there. But you were back in those days at Graham Park, the grand finals, and the crowds they used to
awesome.
get. Amazing. And a year later, you're back again, in a final against Umina, which had Mark Guy from memory. And I remember that grand final. There was something like 12 to 14,000 people there. It was phenomenal back then, wasn't it?
It was. As I said, we had a reunion last week for the 30 years since our 1995 team won. And you look at the crowd around the ground. I don't know how they counted, but at Graham Park, it just had that vibe. It was a fantastic place. Everyone got there, and I loved playing there. It was a dusty old field, but it was great.
And security was like little poles stretched around the ground with string. That was what it was, wasn't
it? That's right.
No barriers. It was ridiculous.
As we mentioned, it flipped a switch in the entrance. Not only the first grade, but all of a sudden they started to build in the lower grades as well. People wanted to come and play for the side, and the era started. And it also attracted Paul Taylor coming up, premiership winning player from Parramatta. He comes to the entrance. And because he's a halfback, or in his viewpoint he switches you to fullback. Tell us how you felt about that, having established yourself as a halfback for the couple of seasons previous.
It was a funny thing. So he came. You're right. He was a halfback, and so I played 5'8" for the first half of the year there, and that was great. I really enjoyed it. Then one day he came in and went, "Oh no, we're going to change it up," and he swapped a lot of players around, and he told me I was playing fullback. Which at the time, it probably was a good decision, but it was a funny thing. He was an excellent club coach, Taylor, and his ideas were good. He probably didn't pretty it up enough for me to make me feel like that was a great thing. So in my head, I thought, no, I want to be halfback.
Yeah.
But you think of it now, you put your fast guy with the good feet at fullback. You put your Reece Walsh back there.
Sure.
And he probably didn't sell it to me as much that way. So, and I was younger and a bit more immature then. But yeah, so I didn't like it. Played some good footy there, but in my head, I wanted to get back up into the halves.
What did he bring to the club after, playing with John Spencer? Totally different characters and personalities.
Yeah.
What did he bring to the Tigers back then? Was it a harder edge?
It was. He brought some great stuff. I know I listened to your podcast with Steve McKenzie. So Paul Taylor, who played under Jack Gibson, where they had the whole club was together in training nights. You had the yellow team, the blue team, the red team, the green team, and someone, which involved 18s, thirds, seconds. Fantastic club coach, Paul Taylor. Yeah, there was fun and things. He was a bit intense, and in the era of pre-mobile phones, he'd make decisions and get cranky and declare, right, we're training again tomorrow night. And we're like, well, we can't all train tomorrow night because we knocked off early tonight.
We got jobs.
Yeah, we got jobs. Or he'd put a training session on a Saturday arvo and not everyone would know, and we go, well, those blokes aren't going to come because you can't ring them because no one knows what a mobile phone is. It hasn't been invented yet. So they're not going to turn up anyway.
Get the smoke drum going.
That's right. But it was interesting years.
Yeah.
And as you said, Dale, the club thrived, and 1992 we were the first time we were ever club champions, and we sort of got on a roll, and I think the entrance has probably stayed on a roll ever since. It's been a strong club. It probably matches up with when the Leagues Club was built, so a bit more money comes in behind it. But back in those early days, money wasn't the lure to come to the entrance. There wasn't money there. We played for the love of the place.
That's great stuff.
Well, Pat, as you mentioned, the Leagues Club opens, the vibe just keeps growing, and the Parramatta flavour keeps coming because Al Emery, who had experience as a player at Parramatta, he comes to the area, and you, being a student of the game, really enjoyed Al Emery coming on as a coach.
Yeah, look, Al Emery, I think, was destined to have a fantastic league career. He was unlucky that he broke his leg when he was about 18 or 19, but from all reports, he was going to be an excellent player.
Yeah.
So, and he was and still is an excellent analyst of the game and understands the game. So Paul Taylor was his friend. He brought Al up to coach reserve grade for a couple of years. They won both years with Al as seconds. When Paul Taylor moved to Queensland, Al Emery takes over, and he, as you said, tactically he was great. Him and I got on very well, and he sort of moved me back into my number 7 jumper, which he laughs about now.
See you, Paul.
But and look, he brought a lot of other players up that he'd been coaching in second grade. That they were first grade standard players, and the club thrived, and Al had good tactics and brought the best out of our players.
And it certainly brought the best because you won a premiership in 93 and 95, and in between that, you won the Sterling Medal as best player on the coast in the competition. Again, personally and from a group point of view, team point of view, another little golden era for the Tigers and yourself, mate.
Yeah. It was a good play under him. It's funny, things like Sterling medals and things like I was a flashy halfback. It was my job to score tries, as Dave Lockley would point out to me. It was his job to get up there and do the hard work and belt blokes. He said, it's your job to finish it off and score the try. So if I wasn't scoring them, I was letting the team down. But under those conditions, I did my role and fit in a good team. Yeah.
Well, Pat, tell us about that 93 season. It took a while to adjust because I know that the momentum started to grow coming into those semi-finals, and then the entrance took the finals by storm.
Yeah. It was one of those years we had a good side on paper, but a lot of our good players got injured in the mid part of the season. Throwing names from the past, but like Andrew Fulliger, he was a very classy player that we had, and he got kneed in the back, possibly deliberately, like in a game up at Turkey one day, and so he missed a lot of footy. A few other very good players were out as well, and we dropped some games. We got to the point where, with 4 rounds to go, we were coming 6th or 7th, and we were playing Turkey, and the pot of gold that they used to have in the program, we got a head start off Turkey. That's how bad we were going.
Yeah.
Like Turkey were giving us start, and we ran out on the field, and Max Beecher called us all in, and he said, look, it starts today. If we win today, we keep winning, we win 7 games in a row, we win the comp. I remember looking up at the sky and just thinking, yeah, Max, whatever you reckon. Anyway, we nutted out a win against Turkley. Then we beat Munmore, we were pretty weak as well at that stage, struggling club. And then somehow we got on a roll. Those good players came back and we knocked over Wyong, we knocked over Woy Woy, and then we just roared into the semi-finals and we just had fantastic momentum and, we racked up big scores and we just couldn't stop scoring. It was fantastic. It all came together.
When you look at rugby league back then, mate, back in the 90s, totally different to what it is now and the restrictions on where you could tackle. It was open slather, wasn't it? Head highs, elbows, knees, whatever. Anything went back then, didn't virtually.
It did. And look, I love watching those games. I just think that was a golden era of football. That's the same era that the Canberra Raiders and Penrith are dominating in Sydney. And the ball seemed to fly around well. Perhaps things were a little bit loose with the high tackling, but it was a great era to play fast, flowing, attacking football.
Yeah.
Well, tell us about the next season, Pat. As RJ mentioned, you won the Sterling medal, but the entrance was still there. But the attraction that your minor brought some players to the comp. How good did you think that was for the competition and raising the level of the standard?
It was exciting. Obviously that was the year that they had Mark Geyer up here playing, and it was all obviously not quite sure how they were actually paying those players. I don't think all of them got paid.
A lot of rumours, Pat.
A lot of rumours. Can't touch them all. But
right.
It was very exciting to come and play. As we said, it still had that community vibe. So we played your minor a day there at EDSAC, and it was ridiculous how many people were jammed on the hill and all around it, and it was very exciting. Everyone wanted to get out there and tackle Mark Geyer. I wasn't so keen on tackling Mark Geyer because he was a little bit loose. I must admit, the first time we played him, I was scared of him.
Yeah.
And look, he was a big fella, and you knew he didn't really care too much about if he got caught at it. But I was proud of myself that the second time we played him, I sort of got past my fears and played a strong, hard game against them, even though they beat us convincingly.
I remember seeing a game where Mark Geyer was playing with your minor against Erina at Erina Oval, and there was a kick-off that Erina had scored, and he's lined up Steve Dawson, remember the hooker, and knocked him out. Absolutely knocked him out, and the game was stopped for 10 minutes. I thought he was dead. It was just... He had no fear. I'm Mark Geyer. Who cares?
Who cares? There was a bit of that vibe there.
Smashed him. Absolutely smashed him.
And look, they did have a really good side. They were a very strong team. Built. He was one of the cogs of it. They had some excellent players. A couple of them ended up coming to play for us the next year. Tony Peters, who was a great footballer coming through. He's a year older than me. And Mick Connor, who's another hard forward. Look, they had good players. It was a very strong team.
Yeah, exactly.
Pat, before we talk about the 95 premiership winning season, 1990, you do your ACL, and that must have been tough. But I suppose to an advantage, you were a physiotherapist. You knew what was needed to get yourself back as quick as you possibly could.
Yeah. I was only a young physio too, so I wasn't particularly wise in things. But it was a bummer doing your ACL back in those days, and surgery, and it was a bit of an unknown. I've always been a disciplined sort of person, and so I pushed myself hard to get back, and I made a good recovery from it. But look, it's a life experience that you go through, and most people, I think, when they get on the other side of it, makes them appreciate their career a bit more, and you come back bigger and stronger. But it's not much fun going through it. Yeah.
All right, we'll find out how he did go after surgery in just a minute. But if you're looking for your next home on the Central Coast, Heritage Real Estate has been helping locals buy, sell and lease for over 30 years. As a family business, they know this community inside and out. Whether you're a property owner, first-time buyer, an investor, or in need of expert property management, the team is dedicated to providing personalised, stress-free service every step of the way. The Heritage team recently awarded Central Coast Best Real Estate Agency for 2025 in the Local Business Awards. Their deep local knowledge and commitment to your success make them the trusted choice for real estate on the Central Coast. If it's time to make your move, visit heritagere.com.au or contact the team at Heritage Real Estate today and experience the difference.
Pat, you mentioned about Paul Taylor, what he brought to training. Al Emery, what did he bring? So 95, the club's strong throughout all the grades again. Tell us what Al specialised at training with the squads.
Al was the first real clever coach. He'd have tactics for different teams. We'd kick the ball to certain areas because Wong had Mark Mulligan was his name, good fullback, big left foot step, and Al would say, no, don't kick it to that side. He's going to cut you up with his if you kick it there, kick it on the other side, make him uncomfortable, and just different things like that. He thought about the game and things. That's what was, that was coming into that era. Like moving the ball around, like other coaches doing as well. Like, but he was tactically very clever.
What about that era, when you're playing and working your way through first grade, what was the money like? I mean, obviously it wasn't great, but were you getting a little bit of money for playing first grade back then?
You get a bit. I probably wasn't a good negotiator, so I think some of the guys got...
Needed an agent?
I needed one. Yeah. Should have lined out back then, Rick.
Okay.
But look, it was enough. I remember you used to think of it, you get some money, pay for your holiday at the end of the year, so that was the vibe that you'd get. Especially... probably tax free in the early 90s. I think once the league started coming, you can't get cash. Right, cash with the hand.
That's right.
You'd get your check at the end of the year, and then you'd go and spend it.
Okay. Pat, you mentioned listening to Steve McKenzie. He said the same about even club games. You got good crowds because the locals could identify with the players. They'd get along and watch, no matter what other sport they might have been involved with. They love to go and especially watch the Entrance Tigers. Tell us about that season and then leading into another premiership win and another try in the 95 grand final.
Yeah, so 95 was another strong year. And as you said, it's still predates that Foxtel TV era. So, but lots of people still coming up and watching games. It's funny, you probably only had a few players that were consistently stayed at the Entrance year after year. Like those... So myself and Steve McSweeney were the ones that won those 3 premierships in a row. Graham Setry was a stalwart of the club.
Yep.
A lot of guys, we get them come up for a year or two from Sydney to play and things like that. But for us local guys, you really had that vibe that we're part of the club and part of the community around. So we got on another pretty good roll. The 95 year, we'd included some Toukley guys, like Big Phil Gearside came over. Yeah. And we had a strong team into that comp. So we were clearly I think us and Wyong were the clear top 2 sides of 1995. Yeah.
All right, 96, you decided to retire, and you must have looked back, mate, on a career with the Tigers and previous clubs as well with a lot of satisfaction. First grade premierships, you won at Sterling Medal, etc. As Dale mentioned in the intro, 139 games, nearly a try a game, 135 tries. So fantastic. And I remember there was one night where you were named in the Entrance Tigers team of the last 20 years or century or something. And so again, that was the regard you were held within the Tigers club.
Yeah. And it's just one of those, as I said, that was my job. But so by 96, I'm not old, but I'm 28, 29, as Dale pointed out, I'm running my own physio. I was getting a bit tired, a bit stale, so it was one of those things. And look, I'm a man of faith. I believe that I had lots of little injuries, but nothing too bad. And I sort of felt that God was basically saying to me, "This is probably enough for you here. It's probably time to do something else." So that year I did, but retired. 28, 29. I probably could have squeezed out a few more footy years. But that's when I thought I might go on to something different. Sure. And that's when I looked at OzTag and Touch as a different outlet.
Yeah. But still a lot of satisfaction and what an achievement.
Yeah. It was good, and it's one of those things. Like you achieve it with friends and things playing. That's what you enjoy. Like to get together, like I've done recently with guys I hadn't seen for 30 years, and it's ripped those memories. And even all us old footballers on the case that played through that era, I'm fortunate enough. A lot of them that have gone on and played OzTag with guys from other clubs like David Rose from Erina and things like that. And just that bond that you've got, that you played through that era, it was tough, like you said, but we're all part of it and we knew the community was behind it. It's a special bond that guys of my mid to late 50s, either 60s age, we all share it together, that we know how lucky we are.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Pat, all throughout your football career, off-season, you played touch, multiple competitions, you were outstanding at that sport as well. How hard was it in that post-rugby league era to choose between touch and OzTag because you made the right choice?
Yeah. OzTag was still fairly new in the mid-90s, and it probably suited me better. Like touch, I was probably a little bit too much of a leaguey to be a real good touch player. But OzTag, it sort of fitted the skill set that I had well. That you kicked the ball. I loved my fitness. I was fit. I could pretty well do all the things you need to do on the field and that. So at first I did both and enjoy being in both, but it's hard committing to both sports time wise and things like that. So gradually over 3 or 4 years, I could sort of see that tag was my more natural fit.
All right, and one interesting thing about your move to OzTag, mate, which was developed by a Central Coast guy,
Very
Haddock.
Yep.
Way back then, and you became captain of the Central Coast men's team. So instead of being at number 7 and part of the league team, now you're the skipper.
Yeah.
From 97 to 2000, and you've won 10 state and national cups. So it was a pretty good change, wasn't it, from league to OzTag, and almost like a seamless transition for you.
Sort of, yeah. It worked out good for me, right? That it fitted, and I had some contacts in the local league thing. So when Glenn Hale was in charge of the Central Coast organisation back then, he sort of said, I reckon you should coach them. I've never coached a team before, but I sort of worked my way into it, and it fitted fairly naturally. And then over those first few years, you could sort of, there used to be a bit of a divide between touch and tag. It was a bit like league and union.
Yes.
But I worked out that for our tag Central Coast team to get stronger and better, one of the things we were missing was some of those razzle-dazzle skills that some of the touch players could bring. So I tended to bring some of those guys over. So, Adam Carlisle, a couple of touch greats in Dean Wilbo and Brent Powell, and they were just lightning quick little blokes. I sort of bridged that gap and got them over playing tag, and then a couple of years behind them you've got Nash Beebe and Shannon O'Brien, Jeff Coronius, Dane Myers, eventually guys like that.
Sure.
That could have played either of them, but I don't know, I was just good at getting guys involved, and we built a very strong team.
Well, Pat, like in the Rugby League, the resurgence of the Entrance Tigers, and not only at that level, but also through the grades. It was the same with OzTag. All of a sudden the Central Coast were becoming noticed, not only just with senior men's, but with the mixed, with the girls, with the older age groups as well. So you went through that resurgence and growth to Central Coast becoming the best in the state. Yeah.
But it worked out. Like my daughter Erin was only young coming through, so I ended up for a while there. I was captain coaching the men's team, and I will have to should mention there's a couple of years there where I didn't actually do all the coaching, like because I was coaching the women's team as well. So we ended up Barry Dewar came in and coached the men's team for a couple of years, and I just played as a captain sort of thing. But I sort of had a role there in getting the girls team going, and similar thing. I led on some of my touch footy contacts and got some very good players across, like Sheryl Langbridge, or everyone knows her as Shorty. She came and played for a few years, and Karina Castle, girls that were excellent touch players, Australian standard touch players. They came and they were part of the journey of our women's team growing as well. And as you pointed out, Central Coast were the sleeping giants really at that stage, weren't a real strong power in OzTag, but by the time you get into the early 2000s, we're growing, and Central Coast now is
a powerhouse,
dominant force.
Absolutely.
They're trying to split us up now with two.
Yeah, that's right. So from the Central Coast competing at state and national things, the Australian team comes up, and you're named in that captain from 97 to 2000. So would have been a state of origin series. How did you get selection with the Aussie, the national team?
They used to have they'd pick a New South Wales team. And you'd play with New South Wales, Queensland, ACT, and they had like a Northern Queensland team. It was like an Australian Championships, which we won. Basically, I guess the bottom line, you got in the New South Wales team, you pushed your way into the Australian side. After that, they tended to change it, and they would just have Australian Championships, and you had to sort of, represent your local area and do well in that to get in the Australian side. So, but obviously, Central Coast were getting stronger and stronger. That helped my cause, and I was lucky enough to get a start in the Australian side, and
6 years.
Hung in there from then. Played
6 years.
Yeah. And it's funny. It's one of those things. It's a bit like what we were saying back when you were comparing the North Sydney footy to entrance footy. The Australian stuff was good to be part of, and I enjoyed that. But I really had my passion for OzTag was for the Central Coast. So I'm a little bit sheepish about the Hall of Fame thing in Australian, and that I only really played for Australia a relatively short period of time compared to other people I've done lately. But I have put a lot of effort into the Central Coast one. I am quite proud of how well the Central Coast has grown. Yeah.
Well, Pat, tell us about that as an Australian player. We know now how the game's grown. Over 200,000 people playing the game. 20 nations are playing the game of OzTag. What was it like back then when you played for Australia? Who did you play against?
Yeah, we really just would play New Zealand each year. So I stopped playing before they'd had a World Cup, right? There was one tour over to the UK, and it just wasn't feasible for me with my business to go and do that one. So I really only got to play against New Zealand and some other developing sort of sides where they were developing like Pacific teams and like a Lebanese-based team in Sydney and things like that. So it was great to be part of it, and that's probably a point you made, Dale. That the World Cup things now has obviously grown, and it's be a much bigger vibe. But as I said, excited to play for Australia and be able to run out there and listen to the national anthem and say this is my chance to play for Australia. I was never going to do it in rugby league. It wasn't good enough. I wasn't an Olympic standard athlete, but OzTag, I guess I was good enough. So it was great.
Have you still got the green and gold jersey, mate? Is it still in the cupboard?
It's in the cupboard.
In the cupboard. You bring it out.
I'm a little bit of a hourder. So my wife.
You bring it out every now and then. Just say, look, dear, this is what I've got.
Well, it's funny because I coach my current role is I'm coach of the Central Coast under 11 girls team. Right, and I did have a thing a couple of years ago where one of the girls said to me, "Oh, do you actually play this game? Have you played this game?" Yeah, occasionally. I have played once or twice. That's right.
Here's my jersey.
I mentioned you're a student of the game, but you're a student of whatever you analyse sport. You analyse whatever sport it might be, and then you think, how can I change things? How can I get things? Is that the transition from being a player to a coach? Is that something you've been conscious of, making sure that you don't come in cold, you come in with the right information?
Yeah, I guess it sort of comes down to as I pointed out, I was never physically gifted that way. So I'm not the sort of person that can do something and it's easy for me straight away. So I always had to sort of learn how to do things and play to whatever strengths I had. And I guess. And I was passionate. I liked it. So I did a lot of sprint training, things like that, where I learned things off different guys, and so I guess that's how it works out. That a lot of sports you can nut it down, and I ended up coaching like soccer as well now, because my son was a soccer player or is a soccer player. And you just sort of learn from the best, whatever environment you're in.
And your coaching's continued. Young players under 11 rep teams, taken out state championships 2 years in succession. So that must have given you a really good feeling, mate. This next generation coming through and they love it. They're so passionate.
It's fun. They love it. I'm coaching the girls team this afternoon. And I look forward to it. But look, sport is great for kids. And it doesn't have to be elite level. I get a lot of pleasure coaching my grandson Zane. He's 13. Him and his mates play OzTag and play touch, and I'll come and give him. Coaching involves me turning up 10 or 15 minutes before the game and give them a couple of little tips. But I just enjoy seeing them learn things and you see them grow and thrive and be mates playing together again. I think that's to me that's what growing up's about. So.
Well, Pat, I think it's a testament to your fitness, what you've done, your regime to stay at that level. You were 41 before you stopped playing men's open with OzTag. Did that make it easier when you come back to play 35s, 45s, 50s, etc.?
Oh yeah, I mean it did. I was lucky that my body wasn't breaking down in that era and I was fit and could keep playing. Obviously, once I thought that's probably my time's done in the opens, I dropped. Ended up playing in the older age divisions with guys roughly my age or whatever, and you'd say make it easier, but also I was starting to break down by then too, like in the mid 40s. I thought I did well at 41, and I look at Dane Myers now. I don't think I'm talking out of school, but I think he's 46 and he's still playing. And that is like mathematically ridiculous.
And he's another physio too, I think.
He is, and like he's one of those guys that. Probably a similar thing to me. He's fit and strong, and he's intelligent and uses his strengths. But to still be going, mind-boggling.
Yeah, well, it's the love of the game, isn't it? Love what you're doing. If you love it and you can still do it at a certain level, you keep it up.
Keep going.
Yeah, so mate, when you look back and you look at rugby league now, just going back to that briefly, in rugby league on the coast, the Entrance Tigers now split into 2 competitions. So those premierships are starting to thin out a little bit, both locally and in that tougher Denton Cup competition. Has that been a good thing for them and Wyong? Again, same deal. Premierships have dried up.
Oh yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. It's hard. Look, I think Central Coast Rugby League. It's good that you've got Toukley becomes so strong.
Yes,
And, Erina is strong. So you do want to see things shared around. That's probably one of the things in that era that I played. Like us and Wyong definitely were quite dominant compared to the other clubs.
Yeah.
I think it's healthy that you've got a thriving comp and people competing. Yeah, as I said, for the young guys playing now, the only thing that I feel sorry for them is they don't get to play in front of the same crowds that we had.
No,
that's just the way life
right.
is.
Yeah.
But, I'm sure they still love their sport the same, but.
Well, a home game at the Tigers now, I mean, what are we talking, 300-400 people, perhaps?
Yeah, not quite as much.
Against, when maybe Wyong's a bit bigger against them. But you look back on the crowds at the Tigers back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Enormous.
Different lifestyle.
But in your journey through all your sports, rugby league, touch, Oztag, what's the best piece of advice that you were given that you now pass on to the youngsters you are training?
That's a tricky one. You got to enjoy what you're doing, and you've got to work hard. Look, I think the main thing I get out of sport and things is that you get your most satisfaction out of earning a win. Sometimes you can win just by being like, you can turn up, 2 teams on the field, you're mathematically a 50-50 chance every game. But my greatest satisfaction of wins where I know we won because we did the work. We put in the effort, and at the end of the day, we deserve that win. We earned that win. We deserve the champions, what it is, and that gives you sort of satisfaction. And I think if you can find that in whatever you're doing, you're going to enjoy your sport.
Yeah. Little question out of left field, mate. As a physiotherapist, has there been a famous sports person you've had to work on, get the body right for a major game?
Get them right. As a footballer, Kai Hurst was an interesting one.
Yes, right.
And because he was at the top of his game then, and he was living up on the Gold Coast, and for whatever reason, he's got Central Coast connections. He was here, and it was a pleasure working on him. Which as a player, he said, "Oh, I really like this physio. You don't just talk to me and don't tell me what you actually do things, and that is a vibe. You want to get in there and help people." So he was a good one.
He comes good. That's all right. That's a good name drop, mate.
Yeah,
and you've always done that, Pat. I've been lucky enough to call you friend for a long time, Pat, and I had the privilege of going away with you on some great Tumbiumbi State Cup.
Did he play up a bit on those trips? What goes on
to silence there.
But what I did see, Pat, was a love between you and your brother Mick. Mick supported you throughout your sporting career, and you also supported him throughout his music career. It must have been tough for you to navigate the tragic loss of him. And what made it harder too, Pat, was through COVID time, so you couldn't have the people around you as well. Tell us how you did navigate that.
That thing, look, it's a sad situation, Dale, that how life unfolded for my brother Mick. Like he was, as I said, growing up, we both wanted to be footy stars and music stars, and he got to do a bit of both. He played.
He was good.
So in 1991, we were both playing first grade together.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back at those days fondly, and as the years went on, he ended up concentrating on his music. He had a wonderful career.
He did.
Toured the world and played with lots of fantastic people. Just the way life worked out, he was had some depression issues, and as you pointed out, Dale, that ended sadly in that COVID era. No, it wasn't a good thing, and probably would have been better if COVID didn't exist, and there would have been more support. And for anyone else that's been through the same situation, we just live with it every day and battle on. Yeah.
Well, we always like to end on a high, mate, all our podcasts. It's been an absolute pleasure tracking through your football career from rugby league to touch to Oztag, mate. It's been fantastic talking to you. Congratulations on what you've done in the sport and in business as well. You've worked on my league, mate. You got me going okay.
Yeah, that was a challenge.
That was a challenge. But mate, it's been a pleasure having you on the CCSC Victory Rap Sport podcast. Well done, mate.
All right. Thanks,
Pat,
guys. Pleasure to be here.
you're 57 now.
Yeah.
You have a conversation with an 18-year-old Pat Hart. What do you say?
Yeah, what would I have done a bit different? Look, I probably would have tried to be a bit more resilient when I was younger. The first year at North, it's funny, as you get older, you value different things more. I think when you're a young kid, you think you just want to impress people and score a flashy try or do something magnificent. But coaches and people, they value the putting in the hard yards and the consistency and things. And I probably didn't work that out until I was a little bit older, you know. So I probably would say, concentrate on being a good team person, doing the hard work, getting your role there rather than relying on being flashy and brilliant. That's probably what I'd say. Yeah.
All right, you've been listening to another CCSC Victory Sports podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, CCSC, Central Coast Sports College. Look out for their big sporting day coming up in October. And also, welcome back to Heritage Real Estate. Thanks for being part of it, and talk to you for another sports podcast very soon.
Pat, that was excellent, mate.
Thanks, guys.
Very, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good on you, mate.
Thank you.
Great stuff, mate.
I was back
Great
there.
stuff.
I was back in the entrance leagues club.
Well,
Max the King.
did you try